Hi, back with part two. Now we're going to talk about how we can load our body to create this hypertrophy or increase strength, increase power, increase endurance, increase the efficiency and the usefulness of our muscles. Okay, we can use exercises that have constant resistance, so something like using a barbell or a dumbbell where the weight doesn't change as we move. Okay, we can also use variable resistance where things get more difficult or less difficult throughout our motion. So things like resistance bands, chains, things where as we move, it may increase resistance or decrease the resistance that we have to overcome. And the last one that I think is very interesting and fun to use are eccentric loading, or trying to use activities where you are controlling resistance. Rather than making it move, you are resisting its motion in the opposite direction of where you try to produce force. So something like this would be kind of just lowering yourself down from doing a chin-up. These are extremely useful. You get very strong very quickly using these. And if you're one of those people who really likes to be sore after your exercise, eccentric loading is perfect for you. Just be aware it is going to cause soreness, and you get some benefits from increasing strength, but not as much for increasing power and speed. So if you're trying to get faster or more powerful, you do need to move things fast and forcefully. You could do things like plyometrics to do this. So where you are jumping, you are absorbing a stretch, and then you are producing force. So think about things like jumping up on a box, jumping down from a box and jumping as high as you can. Anytime where you are causing a stretch to your muscles and then quickly rebounding out of that stretch to move as fast as possible. We can also do things like speed loading, where we try to move things as fast as we possibly can. I like doing this with like medicine balls, where you can throw them as hard as you possibly can, and then you don't have to worry about controlling it later. You can have someone catch it down the way or throw it against a wall. Or you can have things like isokinetic exercise. If you're in the rehabilitation realm, you'll see this. If you're in kinesiology, you'll see one of these. This is an isokinetic dynamometer. Is something that measures your force output, but the force changes, but the speed does not. So the arm, see, she's kicking out a little arm. The speed doesn't change no matter how hard you push. It's a little interesting. Nothing changes when it comes to speed, but you can see how forceful you can produce that force at any range of motion. They're really expensive, and we use them for rehabilitation. So maybe if you had a torn ACL or something like that, you might have seen one of these in your rehab process. But other ones are much cheaper, like using any kinds of other training tools. It doesn't have to be super fancy. Things like kettlebells, barbells, dumbbells, resistance bands are all great. Things like rocks, stones, sleds, just your own body weight. You can really do anything to increase your strength or increase your endurance. It just depends on how you do it. If you want to get faster, you got to move fast. If you want to get more powerful, you have to get some kind of resistance and try to move it as fast as you possibly can. If you want to get stronger, you have to move resistance that is heavy and challenging for you. And then if you want to build endurance, you have to do movements for extended periods of time with resistance, if that's what your goal is to do. It doesn't really matter what tool you use, just some are a little bit better than others when it comes to planning out ease of exercise, ease of training. So how do we plan out our training? Okay. Normally we use our term for intensity. Okay. Intensity, as some people might think, it's kind of emotional intensity of how difficult it felt, or that was really hard, I'm out of breath. Okay. When it comes to resistance training, intensity is the percentage of your maximum. Okay. So say we're performing an exercise like a squat. Okay, we have a squat. However much weight you can move for one time is your one repetition maximum. So say you put 100 pounds on the bar and you did one squat and you tried to do another one and you couldn't do it. Okay, that would be 100 pounds would be your 1 repetition maximum. All your training would be based off of a percentage of that. That would be the intensity of your training. If you want to get stronger, you have to train above 80% of your 1 repetition maximum. Unless it's your first time ever resistance training, then pretty much everything's going to work. But as you get more advanced, you need to use heavier resistance in order to cause real change. If you want to cause hypertrophy or change in muscle size, you have to go somewhere in the middle. So it can't be too light and it can't be too heavy, because if it's too heavy, you can't do as many repetitions. If it's too light, it's not enough stimulus on your muscle to make it want to change size. So somewhere between 70% to 80% is a really good range for building hypertrophy. So somewhere around something that you can do for 6 to 12 repetitions. If you can do it more than 12, it needs to be heavier. Okay, that's a good general goal for resistance training for hypertrophy. If you're trying to build strength, if you can do it more than 5 to 6 repetitions, you should add some more resistance. You need to make it more challenging. And then repetitions is how many times you perform that movement in one set or a group of repetitions. So if I am using that same squat example, if I squat 5 times and then I put the bar back and I take a little break, those 5 repetitions, those 5 individual times I did the squat would be my 5 repetitions. And then say I repeated that 3 times. So I did 5 repetitions, I took a rest. I did 5 more squats, I took a rest. I did 5 more squats, I took a rest, and then I moved on. That would have been 3 sets of 5 repetitions. And we always write it as sets and then repetitions. So if you did 3 times 5 or 3 by 5 repetitions, that would be your exercise for that day or that movement. When we're picking how heavy or what intensity we need to use, you don't have to have a maximum. You don't have to know what's your maximum. It is a little bit more dangerous, especially if you're just starting out, to try to test your maximum. But if you're really trying to build hypertrophy, use that 6 to 12 zone. If you're trying to build strength, use that 6 to 1 zone. So find a resistance. Try to do it as many times as you can up to that number you're trying to get to. So let's say we're trying to train for hypertrophy. So when I pick a resistance, maybe I'm doing a bench press now. I do my bench press and I get to 13 repetitions. I say, okay, now I have to add some resistance. Add some more. I do it again. I get to 13 again. I put more on, go, and then I can only get 8. Boom. Now I've fatigued my muscles enough. I can move on. Okay, we want to shoot for that zone, somewhere between 6 to 12 repetitions. And we want to fatigue ourselves to the point where we could maybe do 1 more repetition, probably not more, or as much as we could do without being able to finish that group of repetitions or that set. If we're trying to build strength, we want to do something that is heavy, somewhere that we can do maybe 6 repetitions down to 1. So if you can do it more than 6 repetitions and you're trying to get stronger, specifically like improve that 1 repetition maximum, you need to use heavier weights. Okay, so maybe I'm doing a deadlift now and I'm picking up the weight, and I go and I can do 6. Now I add more weight. I go, I can do 6. I add more weight. I go and I can only do 4. Now I'm done. I've fatigued myself enough, and I've gone to that point where I can't do as many as I wanted. Now I move on to my next set. Okay, this would be for hypertrophy or for strength. These are kind of our general recommendations. If I want to improve my endurance, I need to do something more than 12 repetitions. Okay, more, for somewhere between 2 to 3 sets. Okay, the general recommendation is to do at least 3 sets, and then do 3, and then probably do somewhere around 6 total sets at most. So 3 to 6 sets is a good general goal. Strength 1 to 5, hypertrophy 6 to 12, endurance 12 and up. Okay, and we can train different muscle groups when we do this. Okay, the gluteal muscles or gluteus maximus and the other gluteal muscles. These are our backside hip muscles, okay, our booty muscles. These cause our hip to extend or to make our thigh move backwards, make our thigh move outwards, and make our thigh twist. Okay, that's their job. If you want to train these muscles, you need to do movements that make your thigh go backwards. Specifically, things that would do this would be a lunge, a squat, a deadlift, or anything like a side lunge where you're moving side to side, or a step up would be my recommendations for gluteal exercises to improve strength or hypertrophy in those muscles. Some other ones are quadriceps. These are the muscles on the front of our thigh. They make our knee go straight. Okay, so anytime you are straightening your knee, you're using your quadriceps. Okay, so I would recommend exercises like squats, lunges, step-ups for quadriceps strength. Hamstrings or anything that you are pulling your shin towards your thigh or bending your leg. They also help you extend your hip or make your thigh move backwards also. So they help the glute muscles do that also. So anytime you're using a glute exercise like a deadlift, you're also using your hamstrings. I like to use partner hamstring curls. So you lay down and have a partner help you and you try to overcome them and they pull you down. That's an easy one you can do at home to build hamstring strength. The last one, the calf muscles. Calf muscles are our lower leg muscles. These cause our toes to point down or cause us to plantar flex. So anytime you are doing a calf raise or anytime you're pointing your toes, you're training your calves. I do recommend that you elevate your foot. So put your toes on something, maybe a step, hang your heels down, and then go all the way up, all the way down. You could do that at home on any step that you have or build a little step. If you want to make it more difficult, do it on one leg. If you want to make it more difficult, hold something. But no, calf muscles are more endurance-based muscles, especially when we're training them for, they're very difficult to increase their size because they're very slow twitch. So they're very good at endurance, not as good at increasing size. So they take a lot more training than other larger, more fast twitch muscle groups when it comes to increasing size. With our upper body muscle groups, first ones we'll talk about are our deltoids. These are our shoulder muscles. We have a front or an anterior, a middle or lateral, and a posterior or rear deltoid muscles. These cause our arm to go up, up, and back. So anytime you're really lifting something up with your arms and picking your arms up, you're using your deltoid muscles. Your pectoralis muscles are your chest muscles. These cause your arm to move across your body. Okay, that's their major job, is bringing the arm across the body, bringing it next to the body. So anytime you are pushing anything away from you or anything down, you're using your pectoralis muscles. So any kind of pressing like a push-up, a bench press, a dip using 2 bars, or any kind of incline pushing movement, or any kind of fly where you bring your arms closer together, will train the pectoralis muscles. They respond better to heavier resistance compared to lighter resistance. The rotator cuff is our stabilizers for our shoulder, and they cause our arm to go in and out. I recommend if you're ever training your pectoralis muscles, also train your rotator cuff. Okay, they will stabilize your shoulder and keep your shoulder healthy. So things like putting your arm to your side and rotating your arm outward, putting it up in front of you, rotating your arm outward, and putting it out to the side and rotating your arm outward. I like to use resistance bands or dumbbells for each of those to improve rotator cuff strength to keep your shoulder healthy. If you don't keep your shoulder healthy, we often see rotator cuff tears and injuries in older men. who maybe are moving a little bit more than they were before, or they're not using their shoulder through a full range of motion. We'll talk in our flexibility chapter about how range of motion, or how much we move, is extremely important for joint health. Okay, so we talked about the front side muscles. Now we'll talk about the back side. We have trapezius, which is this large muscle that goes from the middle of our back up into our neck. It makes our shoulders go up, back, down, and helps them rotate up. So anytime you are doing anything like a shrug, a row, or an overhead push, you're using your trapezius muscles. Okay, the rhomboids are another stabilizer. They help to bring the shoulder blades together, especially when they're up. So think about you're doing a pull-up. The rhomboids help to pull your shoulder blades down and help you get yourself up. So these are primarily shoulder blade muscles or scapular muscles. Latissimus dorsi is the large muscle that goes from your arm down to your low back. Okay, this is the muscle that's here on your side, on the back side, that will bring your arm backwards, okay, and bring your arm towards your body, and bring your arm going backwards, like you're elbowing behind someone or behind to someone. The latissimus dorsi is one of our largest muscles in the body. It's our largest upper body muscle. And it helps us stabilize the shoulder, but also produce lots of movement. I recommend to train latissimus dorsi, pull-ups and chin-ups, and also some rows where you bring your arms just directly back or bringing something towards your body, and then pull-ups and chin-ups. You can't beat pull-ups and chin-ups when it comes to improving the strength of your upper back. If you can't do a pull-up or chin-up, that's fine. Use a eccentric training like we talked about earlier, where you hop up to the top and lower yourself down. If you do those regularly, if you do about 30 of those repetitions every day, you're going to be doing chin-ups just fine. I have high school athletes that are unable to do a chin-up on day one. We do eccentric method, or you use those negatives or those lowers, and the next week they come back and they can do one or two. They do more of those lowers, they come back, they can do 5 or 6. So it works, okay, but that's one of our ways to increase our strength when we don't already have enough strength to cause motion. We do have enough strength to slow down our movement. So I recommend pull-ups, chin-ups. If you don't have one at home, get one of the little bars that hook into your doorway, because they are one of the best for developing your upper body. Okay. Some other ones that everybody likes for our upper body are the biceps and triceps. These are our arm muscles. The biceps help us bend our elbow. The triceps help us extend our elbow, okay, or bend and straighten. If you want to train the biceps, bend your elbow, okay, against some kind of resistance. If you want to train your triceps, straighten out your arms against some kind of resistance. I do recommend for general shoulder health that if you are training your biceps, you need to do bicep curls where your arm is behind your body, next to your body, and in front of your body. And you need to do tricep extensions where your arm is over your head, in front of your head, and down by your side. By getting those 3 positions, we get our shoulder to move also. And because those muscles cross our shoulder, it will help us maintain range of motion at our shoulder and keep our shoulder healthier longer. So I do recommend changing up your bicep curls and your tricep extensions. There's nothing wrong with doing them. I recommend doing them, but try to mix up the position of your arm when you do them. With our trunk muscles, these are our abdominal muscles. They go around our midsection. I like to use the term trunk because trunks are strong rather than core. Think about core, it's very weak. Think about core of an apple or small core, it's just something in the middle. A trunk sounds stronger, so we're going to use the term trunk. Rectus abdominis is our 6-pack muscles. So these are the ones in the front, the pretty muscles, the ones that everyone wants at the beach. But I hate to break it to you, they're not the strongest muscles. They're not the best muscles when it comes to overall back health and spine control. They're mostly just thought of as pretty muscles for some reason or another. But that rectus abdominis, its job is to flex our spine or bring our upper body towards our hips or bring our hips towards our upper body. That's about all they do. Yeah, they help us kind of bend side to side, but really that's their job, is to bend us forward or stop us from going backwards. Our obliques, we have our internal and external obliques that work together. They pull across and help us to twist and turn and bend side to side. These are a little bit more useful for our body because we often carry something in one hand or need to twist and turn. So these are great for controlling our spine movement, going side to side, and things like that, and bending side to side and twisting side to side. So they're a little bit more useful. But rectus abdominis, just doing a bunch of crunches is not going to give you a strong trunk and a healthy back. It's just going to make those kind of little square muscles get a little bit bigger. And another thing with that, everybody likes to do ab training or a bunch of crunches because they want to lose fat around their midsection. I hate to break it to you, but you can't lose fat in just one spot. It's a systemic thing. We'll talk about it in our body composition section. If you're going to lose fat, you're going to lose it everywhere. You can't just lose it right at your belly or right at your thigh or right at your arm. It's not going to disappear like that. So doing a bunch of crunches is not going to give you a six-pack if you have some excess adipose tissue or excess fat tissue that covers it up. The best way to make your abdominals show, if that's your goal, is to make them, give them an appearance, is to lose total body fat and gain muscle mass in total. We'll talk about that in our body composition lecture, but I hope that didn't burst anyone's bubble too much. There's nothing wrong with doing them. They're a great form of exercise, but just know that doing a bunch of crunches is not going to just make your abdominals show. But our other core muscles or trunk muscles that are necessary for us, and the ones that kind of get left out, are the ones that are on our backside. Okay, we have our erector spinae, which are the muscles, the two muscles that run down next to our spine that help us stay upright. These muscles are what help us to sit with good posture, stand with good posture, move around, and keep our body from sinking down into this hunched over position. Okay, so they're extremely important. They help to keep our back straight and stabilize our trunk and help us twist. But they don't get as much love because they're not as pretty and they're on the backside. So you can't see them in the mirror, unfortunately. But training them, any time you are picking something up off the ground and trying to maintain a nice neutral spine posture, you're going to train erector spinae to do its job of keep you upright in the right position. And the last one we'll talk about is quadratus lumborum. Quadratus lumborum is often forgot of, but it is extremely important because it works kind of like our backside oblique. It holds our lumbar spine to our hips. It helps us bend side to side, but it also stops us from bending side to side. So if you're holding your bag or your purse or holding your groceries in one side, your opposite side, quadratus lumborum, is helping your spine stay neutral. If you have a weak quadratus lumborum or an overly used one, it is often one of the sites of low back pain. So doing exercise where you have to carry some kind of resistance and make sure that you keep a neutral posture. I like to do it, say, in the mirror, look in the mirror, hold something in one hand, and step and march. So it forces you to control yourself and stabilize yourself. If you're not doing activities where you have to carry something or hold something, you're missing out on great trunk exercise. That will really translate into your daily life and being a functional, productive human being. All right, we'll come back for part 3 in our next video. Thank you.